The story begins with a boy anxiously checking his phone and sees that tickets for the Blue Impulse live show are sold out. Among the rising idol groups, Kuromiya stands out, being only 15 years old. At that time, the MC did not know the real secret of the idol he always watched from behind the screen. The scene shifts to a classroom where new students await the return of their test papers. The teacher explains that while the school's exams are tougher than those at other schools, they are designed to prepare students for a better future. One by one, students are called up to collect their results. Hiruno Hisashi sits tense, thinking about his marks. He fears he must score more than 90 or his mother will punish him. Sweat runs down his face as he prays to God for good results. A flashback comes to him of when he once scored 89 while his sister Akari scored full marks. His mother scolded him harshly, saying no one in her family had ever gotten such a poor result. She warned him that if he scored like that in high school, she would not allow him back home. Since the first day of high school, he has carried that pressure. A girl steps forward to collect her test and politely thanks the teacher. Hiruno notices her as whispers spread through the classroom. She's beautiful and smart. Her name is Rai Kuromiya, and she's an idol. At first, Hiruno assumes she must be a class or local idol, but then it clicks. She's the real deal. She is admired for her beauty and intelligence. A once-in-a-generation genius idol, Kuromiya Rai. From Hiruno's perspective, they belong to different worlds. He compares himself to her as she can balance her studies and being an idol at the same time. The teacher finally calls Hiruno's name. His test shows only 4 points. The teacher assigns him to an after-school makeup class. Classmates whisper and call him an idiot. Hiruno still wishes to improve, but worries about how to explain this to his mother. After school, people with cameras gather outside, waiting to interview Kuromiya. Students discuss that she has already gone home to practice for her live concert. Hiruno passes by, preoccupied with his makeup class and worried about what excuse he would give to his mom. Then he hears a voice from a room, reciting something similar to the Pythagorean theorem. He opens the door and sees Kuromiya inside, repeating a square b square. He is shocked and asks if she is in the wrong classroom. She explains that the teacher told her to come here. He notices her sweating heavily and asks about what she was reciting. She replies that it is part of her next performance lyrics. He does not fully believe it, but apologizes and politely asks if she has trouble in studies. He realizes he is taking the makeup class together with Kuromiya, the so-called genius idol. She admits she is not an idiot, though she only scored 16 marks this time. Hiruno recalls how confidently she collected her paper and points this out. She rants about how she normally scores high. Hiruno feels relieved, realizing the expectations on her are too high, and that she is also a normal girl. Suddenly, Kuromiya remembers her 6 o'clock lesson, so she needs to hurry. Hiruno offers to teach her. She questions why, since he also failed. He shows his test paper and explains that he misplaced his answers from question 5 onward. Without that mistake, he would have scored 94. Kuromiya is surprised, calling it a manga-like mistake. Hiruno insists he can help her a little. She refuses, saying it is her responsibility as a student and idol to manage both. He apologizes, believing she's committed to balancing both school and her idol career. He calls himself an idiot for intruding. Seeing her struggle, he becomes worried. Houkago High School is an elite, top-tier institution where students can advance directly to university after graduation. As a result, the tests are brutal, and the study hall workload is just as intense. After an hour, Hiruno finally finishes and glances over at Kuromiya, only to find her seemingly frozen in time. He offers to help her just for today, knowing she has a lesson at 6 and already seems overwhelmed. But Kuromiya responds quietly, almost sadly, saying that his help won't fix the real problem. Then drops a bombshell: she has to quit being an idol. She reveals that her mother only allows her to be an idol if she maintains top grades. After being scolded for her recent test, she's been warned that one more failure means she'll have to quit. Through tears, she admits she feels like a fraud, unable to live up to the image her fans admire, and says she doesn't deserve to be an idol. Hiruno sits silently, then erases answers from his paper. After a moment, he offers to solve the problems together with her. She protests that it'll take too much time, but he replies that if they work together, they can finish before her lesson. She agrees, and they begin studying together. He encourages her with claps and a thumbs up when she solves a question. When they finish, Kuromiya apologizes for relying on him. Hiruno tells her not to worry and that she can ask him again. As they leave the school, photographers still wait outside, surprising Haruno. After hesitating a bit, she asks him for one more thing. She states that she wants to continue being called a genius without shame and asks if he will study with her, only if he agrees. Haruno is stunned but accepts. Media cameras click around them. Nervous, he says they should get along as friends and classmates. She replies that pointing out such details is strange, and leaves after bidding him goodbye. At home, Haruno's mother demands an explanation for his test score. He apologizes to her. Meanwhile, Kuromiya sits in her bathtub, talking on the phone. The person on the line asks if she was taught by someone else, and whether he is handsome, since Kuromiya rarely relies on others. She replies it is not like that, then admits Haruno seems like a nice person. The person asks his name, and Kuromiya admits she forgot. They tease her for her forgetfulness. Haruno, however, will soon come to understand the difficulties of teaching her, along with the charm of the idol he has always watched from behind the screen. The next day at school, students gather around Kuromiya and praise her for her live performance, which was featured in an online article. Haruno watches from a distance, musing that she's known as a genius idol from the super popular group Blue Impulse. In Haruno's mind, she is a perfect human, excelling both as an idol and in her studies, or at least she's supposed to be. The reality is that Haruno has ended up assisting her with studies. Sitting in his seat, he feels anxious. The situation seems so incomprehensible that he begins to doubt whether he is dreaming. He tries to convince himself that this is reality. Kuromiya walks toward him and softly tells him that she will meet him after school. His face flushes red, and in that moment he accepts that this is not a dream. After school, Haruno sits in the makeup class, nervous and restless. He wonders if he is really effective as a teacher, considering that he has to teach someone like her. The door slams open and Kuromiya enters, muttering about the right-hand rule. Haruno greets her, and she returns the greeting. At that moment, he arrives at an answer to his doubts. The truth is clear to him. She is not a genius. Her demanding schedule as an idol has caused her to fall behind in her studies. Yet if she fails again, her mother will make her quit being an idol. Haruno informs her that today's subject is Japanese history, confusing her. He can't help but reflect on how he now knows her secret, and how, in his own way, he's helping her become the perfect idol. Kuromiya asks who he is. Haruno is caught off guard, reminding her that they studied together yesterday. She clarifies that she means she has not asked his name before. He introduces himself, though for a moment he panics, thinking she has already forgotten him. She then asks whether anyone saw him coming there, and he confirms no one did. They begin studying. Voices of students jogging outside filter in through the window while they focus on their lesson. Haruno looks at her, fully conscious of the fact that an idol is sitting in front of him, alone with him in the room. The thought distracts him, but he forces himself to concentrate. When he notices her struggling expression, he asks if she is stuck on a problem. She shows him the part she does not understand. Haruno explains that it is a specialized question. Kuromiya panics and admits she is not good with such material. He tells her there is a lot to memorize. She confesses she is not good at remembering names to begin with. Haruno points out that such weakness is serious for a celebrity. She nods and admits her manager often scolds her about it. He advises her to remember names through context. If she connects an era and situation to the figure, it becomes easier. He illustrates this by drawing simple figures. She glances at his sketch and faintly comments that he might be good at drawing. He explains further, linking names to other associations. He stresses that connecting points of view may seem difficult at first, but it is effective for long-term memory. Furthermore, he briefly explains that the king of Baekje introduced Buddhism and sutras to Emperor Kinmi, hoping to spread them in Japan. She remains silent, so Haruno chuckles softly and assures her there is no need to rush. He tells her to practice writing and reading the content, and also to rely on visual memory. Kuromiya says she felt the same way yesterday, but admits he's actually good at teaching. Haruno thanks her. She adds that with his help, the material is easier to understand and remember. She expresses gratitude and calls him Fujita. Our lad corrects her, reminding her his name is Haruno. 30 minutes later, Haruno checks her progress. When he looks at her notebook, he freezes. She has been writing his name repeatedly on the page. Shocked, he asks her about it. She explains that she cannot remember his name otherwise. He raises his voice, telling her to prioritize the names of historical figures over his. Anxiety fills him as he realizes she may be wasting time and energy in the wrong way. He takes her notebook to inspect further. At the bottom of the page, he finds words like kind, good at drawing, and good at teaching. Hiruno wonders if those notes are about him. It dawns on him that she is practicing his advice in her own style, but her method is unusual. He recognizes that she is motivated, but her direction is odd. Suddenly his eyes remain open. He recalls that he himself told her to write and read things repeatedly, and to rely on visuals. She is doing exactly that. Kuromiya begins to repeat his name aloud. Hiruno asks her what she is doing, but she pulls herself closer to him. Nervous, he mutters that she is getting too close. She leans in, says his name again, and announces that now she remembers it. After that, she continues working hard to memorize the names of others. Kuromiya is leaning so close to him that he freezes in place, her breath brushing lightly as she utters the words of her line. He is utterly confused because he is supposed to be teaching her English, yet the situation has turned into something he cannot process. She finishes her sentence and looks at him with expectation, asking how she did. Hiruno's mind spins as he tries to recall how it even came to this. 30 minutes earlier, he had held in his hand some music notes that Kuromiya received for her performance in music class the next day. She confessed that she did not know how to pronounce certain parts in English, and asked him to teach her. He wondered whether she usually sang English songs with natural skill, or if she relied on cue cards for pronunciation. Kuromiya apologized for asking something outside the scope of supplementary lessons, but Hiruno reassured her, saying that he would help with anything she was struggling with. He suggested they begin reading from the start. She agreed and started. She reached the word Europe and struggled, pronouncing it as Europa. Hiruno corrected her, correcting her pronunciation. Immediately, she gave up, insisting that she is Japanese. Hiruno quickly told her not to use that as an excuse, urging her not to fall back. She found it difficult, almost impossible. He decided they should instead focus on fixing her accent and vowel pronunciation, since that is crucial. She gave no immediate reply, and after a while her eyes drifted toward the window. Hiruno told her not to daydream, but she murmured as though she might catch a cold tomorrow. He told her not to lose hope and insisted they would start with the pronunciation of L and R. He explained how to pronounce L by pressing the tongue against the teeth, and R by retracting and rounding the tongue. She agreed and told him to watch her mouth carefully to see if she was doing it right. She leaned forward and began reading the entire line. When she finished, she asked him if it was good. Hiruno, distracted, thought to himself that her tongue is small, but that her teeth alignment is very good. Lost in those thoughts, he barely noticed her leaning even closer. Kuromiya called out to him, asking if he was listening properly. Her closeness made him nervous, and when she completed her line with the words "thanks for the love," she asked again if she had done well. Hiruno, flustered and unable to control his voice, shouted that it was really good. She smiled, delighted, and prepared to move on to the next line. But Hiruno, overwhelmed, shouted for a break. The next day in music class, Kuromiya is called to the front to sing. Hiruno watches her nervously, hoping that her pronunciation has improved. He thinks that if she fails, it would be his fault. Kuromiya begins singing, and her voice flows through the room with a brilliance that shocks everyone. The entire class, including Hiruno, is left in awe. Hiruno realizes at that moment that although he has always thought of her as just an ordinary girl, the reality is far different. She is extraordinary. When she finishes, the teacher's eyes fill with tears. He praises her voice as beautiful, asking if she can sing the song for next week as well, because they want to hear more from her. The class erupts in excitement, cheering loudly. Kuromiya freezes, uncertain. Hiruno stiffens as well, knowing she has not practiced the next song. The teacher urges her again to begin. Kuromiya anxiously glances at Hiruno, silently asking for help. The teacher notices her hesitation and questions her. Hiruno raises his hand, his body trembling. He speaks up with effort, explaining that Kuromiya is an idol and they should not strain her voice too much. The teacher listens and agrees, telling her to save it for next week. The class, however, does not agree and begins to mock Hiruno for interfering. After class, Hiruno walks the corridor with a heavy heart. He feels that it is over, that everyone now thinks of him as someone who cannot read the room. His steps slow with sadness. Suddenly, Kuromiya stops him. She thanks him for his help. Hiruno apologizes for interfering, worried he may have overstepped. Kuromiya murmurs something, then says more clearly, "You were cool." She repeats her practice line, "Thanks for the love," and asks if her pronunciation has improved. Hiruno's face turns red with embarrassment. He quickly replies that next time they'll study the meanings as well. Later, Kuromiya and Haruno are seated together with books spread across the table. The silence between them is broken when Kuromiya suddenly asks if he uses line. Haruno blinks, unsure of what she means, until she continues with a calm suggestion that they exchange line information so it will be easier for them to keep in touch. His throat tightens as her words sink in. She is an idol, yet she is offering to exchange contact details with him. The weight of the moment presses heavily on his chest. Haruno nods hesitantly and mutters that if it is fine with her, then he agrees. His hand shakes slightly under the table as his thoughts scatter in endless circles. He worries about whether it is really acceptable for him, whether he can open his phone freely in public without drawing suspicion, and what might happen if his phone is hacked. The idea of her information being exposed terrifies him. He tells himself that exchanging with classmates is one thing, but with her it feels far too heavy. While he is caught in this spiral, Kuromiya lifts her phone and gives it a light shake in front of him. The simple action pulls him back to reality. To him, the sight looks unexpectedly cute, but he clears his throat and asks what she is doing. She answers softly that a friend can be added by shaking the phone. Haruno looks at her with calm seriousness and explains that the feature was removed long ago. Her expression freezes as realization dawns, and embarrassment spreads across her face. Her cheeks redden and she lowers her gaze, her nervous smile tugging at his chest. To him, her flustered state looks undeniably cute. He asks if she is not good with smartphones. Kuromiya admits it in a quiet voice. He offers to add her through a QR code instead. They lean closer, and after scanning, her profile appears on his screen. His eyes widen when he sees the photo. It is Kuromiya with her dog, both of them smiling. His lips move before his mind can catch up, blurting out the word cute with too much force. She lifts her head quickly and asks if he is fine. His face burns, and he stammers that he means the dog looks cute. Her shoulders ease and her smile softens as she begins speaking fondly about her dog. She tells him that the dog is only 3 years old and that she loves taking him out for walks. The way her voice warms while she talks makes her look even more gentle. She turns to him with bright eyes and asks if he also has a dog. He quietly shakes his head. Without missing a beat, she exclaims with enthusiasm that he should have one too. Her cheerful tone spreads warmth in the space, and Haruno can only nod faintly in response. His eyes return to her profile picture again, and he realizes how different she looks compared to the idol Kuromiya on stage. He says that she appears different. Kuromiya answers calmly that it is because of hair extensions. She explains that at work she wears them because her idol image demands it, but in school she avoids them due to the rules. Haruno mutters to himself that it sounds tough. She responds that wearing the extensions helps her switch into her idol version, but without them, she feels more relaxed, closer to herself. Her words shock him more than expected. His eyes widen as he asks whether she is relaxed right now. She meets his gaze and confirms it with a shy nod. His chest feels tight, and he speaks firmly. He says being famous is already hard, and adding school makes it harder. He tells her to let him know if it ever gets too much. Kuromiya lowers her gaze, her cheeks glowing. In a soft voice, she admits that she feels she can relax in front of him. The moment she hears her own words, her face flushes red. She quickly gathers her belongings, blurts out that she has to leave for her lesson, and walks away in haste. Haruno is left staring after her, confused and unsettled. The next day arrives, and Haruno sits at his desk with a restless body and a nervous heart. He could not study properly at home. His mind had been consumed with the thought of receiving a line message from Kuromiya, but no message came. He convinces himself that she must be too busy as an idol, with work and studies leaving her no spare time. Still, the silence weighs down on him. As he struggles with his thoughts, a classmate announces loudly that everyone should join the class group chat. Soon his phone buzzes with messages and invitations. He joins the group and scrolls through the conversation. As expected of students at an elite school, the topics revolve around studying and lessons. He nods absent-mindedly at their discipline, but then notices something that makes his heart skip. Among the group members, he sees Kuromiya's name and profile picture. He compares it with the account she exchanged with him yesterday and realizes instantly that this is different. The private account is not added here. His pulse races as he sends her a message asking if she has 2 accounts. She replies that she does. He types again, asking if she doesn't share her second account. Her response comes quickly. She writes only to look over there. He lifts his head and turns toward her. Kuromiya meets his gaze and silently presses a finger against her lips. The quiet gesture strikes him deeply. His cheeks flush bright red as the meaning settles over him. Another secret has been entrusted to him. Hiruno is packing his bag while his eyes drift once again toward Kuromiya. Students are surrounding her, their voices rising with question after question. Normally, she answers them with cheerful patience, yet today her replies are short and bland, her expression calm but distant. Even in this manner, the students around her remain impressed. Hiruno overhears 3 boys whispering near him. One remarks that she is unbelievably patient, almost like a saint. Hiruno exhales quietly. He knows that they are misunderstanding her in a positive light, and even though it looks admirable on the surface, he feels uneasy knowing that this is the reality she faces every day. The same boys keep talking. Another one leans closer to his friends and says that he wants to go out with her. His voice turns lively as he spins a story of his own imagination. He describes approaching her with confidence, asking her to meet in an empty classroom. In his fantasy, she scolds him lightly, saying that he is 3 minutes late, and then they sit face to face, studying together, chatting and flirting with ease. He laughs, calling it the best situation he could dream of. Hiruno freezes at these words, his mind flashing back to his own recent memories with her. His chest tightens. The boy's friends laugh, and one warns him to calm down, insisting that such a situation would spread rumors if it ever happened. They insist that she would never behave that way anyway because she is intelligent. Hiruno lowers his gaze, his nerves growing heavier. He realizes the truth that Kuromiya might not be thinking about such risks, so he has to be the one who stays responsible. After school, they sit down to study as usual. Hiruno cautiously brings up the topic of scandal. Kuromiya replies that she wouldn't want that, then asks why he brought it up. He responds vaguely, but admits internally that rumors could easily start and that he wants to avoid any misunderstanding about their relationship, deciding inwardly to maintain a careful distance. Despite the topic, Kuromiya remains focused. She answers his questions with concentration, her confidence showing as she closes her eyes to recall details and then speaks with clarity. Hiruno corrects and guides her, shaping her answers with quiet patience. At one point, when she opens her eyes again, she notices that he is sitting further away than before. She looks at him directly and asks about it. He explains in a steady voice that he does this only to prevent unnecessary trouble for them. Kuromiya frowns softly. She asks if being close to her would cause him trouble. He quickly denies it, saying that is not what he means. She lifts her phone, then shows him a picture of her dog. Without thinking, Hiruno mutters from where he sits that it looks cute. Kuromiya begins to close the distance between them, yet Hiruno instinctively shifts away. He steps back slowly, retreating until he finds himself pressed into a corner. Kuromiya follows without hesitation, placing her hands against the surface near him and leaning in close. Her eyes fix on him as she asks why he is running away. Her closeness makes him flinch, and his voice rises with panic. He shouts that it is dangerous. He admits that he is trying to avoid creating rumors that could damage her reputation. Kuromiya studies him for a moment, then sighs and speaks with honesty. She says that he was only avoiding her because of some whispers. She tells him that she is always cautious about such matters and has been managing them for a long time. Her voice sharpens with curiosity as she adds that perhaps he is the type who makes overly strong assumptions. Hiruno lowers his gaze, regret seeping into his tone as he apologizes. Kuromiya breaks the silence and calmly reassures him that he doesn't need to move away. She tells him directly that he's a good person. She adds that she hasn't heard any strange rumors, so their secret is still safe, and that should be enough to ease his worries. Hiruno feels the tightness in his chest fade, relief washing over him. Kuromiya looks at him with a softer expression now. Her lips curve faintly, and she murmurs that she does not hate that part of him. The words strike him deeply, and his body trembles slightly. To him, it almost sounds like a proposal or at the very least an intimate confession. He grips tightly at his own thoughts, reminding himself that she is a professional idol. She has surely thought carefully about crisis management, and he does not need to protect her so obsessively. Yet at the core of his heart, he only wishes to keep her safe from becoming a victim of senseless rumors. He is lost in these thoughts when her voice cuts through his silence. Kuromiya wonders if they can meet on the upcoming weekend. His eyes remain wide open, and after a pause, he finally utters that they should go to karaoke so they can study there. She agrees without hesitation, telling him to head there first and wait for her. When the weekend arrives, he reaches the karaoke place before her. Sitting there alone, He feels his chest tighten with unease, thinking anxiously that he has been swept away once again. The situation is far from ordinary, and the reality of being inside a locked room with just the two of them strikes him as something dangerously close to a date. His thoughts grow restless. He tries to drive away the evil images that rise in his mind, but no matter how hard he tries, they linger. He wonders what kind of clothes she might wear. He thinks of whether she would appear in disguise, blending into the crowd, or if she would reveal herself in normal clothes. He imagines her in different outfits, stylish ones, simple ones, and even pretty casual dresses that might suit her. Every thought only deepens the heat in his chest, until he finally shakes his head, attempting to silence the fantasies before they consume him. Suddenly, the door opens. A girl steps in, apologizing for making him wait. He quickly denies that she made him wait long, but his eyes fix on the figure before him. Blonde hair falls from beneath a cap, and for a moment he does not recognize her at all. His first thought is that someone has entered the wrong room. Then she removes the cap and reveals herself. It is Kuromiya. The realization stuns him, leaving his eyes frozen wide as he mutters her name. She nods, explaining lightly that the day is unbearably hot, and suggests they sit in back. He agrees at once, but in his chest, a sharp thought cuts through. Her earlier warnings about being careful. She had been right all along. She had prepared for this meeting in her own way, while he wasted his time drowning in unnecessary worry. Kuromiya settles into the sofa, and when she notices him still standing, she asks if he is not going to sit. He blurts out that he will, yet his mind betrays him. Sitting across from her feels heavy, and the natural, fresh charm she gives off in her normal clothes pulls at him uncontrollably. She takes something from her bag, and curiosity pushes him to ask what she is pulling out. In her hands is a tambourine. His eyes widen again. He reminds her that they came here to study, not to sing, but her carefree energy fills the room regardless. They begin their study session, and to his surprise, they can concentrate better than he expected. The environment, though odd, does not distract them as much as he had feared. At one point, he notices the room growing hot and hands her a body sheet to wipe her sweat. She accepts it gratefully, thanking him before pressing it to her skin. His gaze lingers longer than it should, the simple image of her wiping herself in her casual outfit carrying an innocence that feels both fresh and dangerously exciting. His heart beats faster, and he begins to panic. Abruptly he stands, claiming that he will adjust the air conditioner to avoid heat stroke. In truth, he is trying to escape the surge of thoughts that threaten to consume him. As he presses the remote, the television suddenly lights up. An advertisement begins playing, and it is none other than Kuromiya's new song. She shifts uncomfortably and mutters that he does not need to watch it, her tone betraying embarrassment. He wonders aloud how an idol can be embarrassed by her own commercial. She avoids his eyes, explaining softly that she just does not want her friends or family to see it. He finds her logic strange, but before he can say more, she urges him to return to their studies. Time passes quickly, and when the session ends, Kuromiya insists on paying the bill. He protests immediately, telling her that she should not, but she reminds him that she works and that this is the least she can do to repay him. He shakes his head, saying it still feels wrong. She explains again that if she does not pay, then there is no benefit for him in coming. She calculates aloud, deciding that 2,000 yen should be fine. She glances at the slip, noting that the amount is not far from what she carries. Then her lips curl with a teasing remark, pointing out that being with a popular idol like her should count as a benefit too. His chest stiffens at her words, and he insists again that he will pay. She quickly denies him, holding firm to her decision. He asks her to hand him the slip. She refuses. Their hands tug back and forth, pulling at the paper, neither willing to give in. His strength finally wins. She leans forward, demanding he return it. Suddenly, her foot slips against the floor. Her balance falters, and in an instant they both collapse onto the sofa. She lands above him. Their eyes meet in stunned silence, wide and uncertain. Both of them are embarrassed about the situation. They immediately get up from the sofa and begin apologizing to each other. After a brief pause, they awkwardly sit back down. Kuromiya asks him if he is not going to sing something. He agrees with hesitation. She gently says that it would be nice if they sing together. He confirms, still uncertain, and she encourages him sweetly. She begins searching for a suitable song while asking him for suggestions. He, however, is distracted, quietly admiring her presence and the faint fragrance around her. He suggests singing her new song since it has just been released. She refuses, saying it would be embarrassing. They eventually decide on a song titled Scott Act. the same one they sing during music class. Both of them begin to sing the lyrics together. In the middle of it, he drifts into a flashback of when he first wished only to help her. Now he questions himself, wondering why he continues assisting her with studies, whether it is because she is an idol. Suddenly, Kuromaya stops singing and tells him that she cannot read the lyrics of the second verse. He tells her to skip it and suggests returning to their English studies instead. His face grows warm with sweat, but he expresses that he is glad they managed to sing that song earlier. Kuromaya then replies that she has been enjoying studying lately. She thanks him sincerely and insists that she must repay him. She says it would not be right if only she were receiving and not giving anything in return, adding that, as an idol, she is supposed to inspire people. If she does not, then she does not deserve to be with him. After a moment, he responds that he wants to pay for today. He doesn't like the way she talks about things in terms of benefits. Her determination to chase her goals, he explains, is something he finds genuinely amazing and inspiring. He admits that it's that part of her, the part that keeps trying, that he really admires, and that's the reason he wants to spend time with her. Realizing the weight of his own words, he suddenly pauses. His face flushes with embarrassment, and he apologizes, saying it is only a general statement. Before he can finish, Kuromaya interrupts and tells him that she also wants to spend time with him. His eyes widen, and his face turns red as he tries to calm himself. She persists and says she still wants to give him something in return. She then asks if he would like to hear her song. He looks at her with curiosity, unsure if it is acceptable. She admits that it feels embarrassing since she never sings in private, but holding the microphone, she says that she wants him to listen. Later, after returning home, Kuromaya receives a message from Sora asking about the karaoke time she spent with the boy. She replies with little interest. Soon, another message arrives from Sora, saying it is impossible that she was alone with a guy and nothing happened. Kuromaya answers that it was not like that and to stop interfering like an uncle. When Sora points out that it seems like she has found a friend, Kuromaya agrees. Sora then demands details about what happened. Kuromaya pauses as she recalls the events at karaoke, and finally replies that it is a secret. Sora insists that she must let her meet him the next time. Kuromaya is the center of Blue Impulse, known as the genius idol for her prestigious school and standout performances. Yet she has a secret. Alone in her room, she lies on her bed and sends a message to Haruno, thanking him. He replies that he should be the one thanking her. As she lies there, she recalls what she said to him at karaoke, and feels a wave of embarrassment. Suddenly, she sits up, remembering that she has to review today's lesson. Still, her thoughts drift back to Haruno, and she admits to herself that he looked quite stylish. The scene shifts to Haruno. When he arrives home, his younger sister Akari greets him at the door. She asks about his date, since a man and a woman meeting alone in a locked room is considered a date. Embarrassed, Haruno shouts at her, saying she only speaks like that because she does not know the other person. He adds that even thinking in such a way is like staining her existence with sin. Akari calmly responds that it is good she chose his clothes. He thanks her for her help. His usual clothes were so boring that she suggested a better outfit, so he would not feel embarrassed. She also tells him to buy new pajamas in case anything unexpected happens. Later, while sitting at his study table, he mutters to himself that pajamas are not lame. He opens his phone and begins searching for stylish pajamas for men. At that moment, a message from Kuromaya appears. She writes that she still does not understand a part, even though she practiced today. He asks her about it, and she replies by asking if they can discuss it on a call. His eyes widen at the message. He is an introverted high schooler, and although he owns a smartphone, he has never made a call. He hesitates, unsure how to respond. Haruno considers searching for the right way to reply, but does not want to keep her waiting. Finally, he convinces himself to try calling, yet when he attempts it, he mistakenly presses the button for a video call. Kuromaya accepts the call and greets him politely, saying she did not expect him to make a video call. On his screen, he sees her in pajamas. She smiles and remarks that he is the same person as before, and that his clothes now look cuter compared to his daytime outfit. His eyes remain open. He always cursed his past self for his lack of care. He never showed interest in appearance and foolishly believed that the clothes his mother bought were acceptable. He thinks of Akari and realizes that, at least once, he should have doubted the foolish look of his past self. He admits inwardly that he truly wants to change his clothes. As he lingers in silence, Kuromaya asks if he is all right. He quickly changes the subject and asks about her difficulty. She explains that her problem is with mathematics. He begins teaching her through the screen, carefully explaining the solution. When he asks if she understands, she nods in agreement. Then she suddenly adds a simple remark, saying that negative and negative make positive. Surprised, he questions why she says this. She explains that both of them started from negative positions, each being scolded by their parents. But after meeting him, she began to study properly. Now they are friends, speaking on the phone like this. His face flushes red. She continues, saying that she likes it, even if it resembles a mathematical calculation. As the night grows late, Kuromiya says that she should sleep. She immediately lays down on her bed before ending the call and says goodbye. Haruno remains still, confused by the words he has just heard, convinced that he was not supposed to hear something like that. With restless thoughts in his head, he lies down on his own bed. He decides that he will go shopping this weekend. The next morning begins, but he has not slept a single moment through the night. At school, Haruno anxiously mutters to himself. He is tense about the upcoming term exams that are only 2 weeks away. His thoughts circle Kuromiya's steady improvement in grades despite her busy job. He convinces himself that he must also push harder and study more. His classmates glance at him uneasily, finding it unsettling that he keeps talking to himself. His main worry remains Japanese history, a subject he feels he must cover thoroughly. Suddenly, a can slides against his forehead, and a voice tells him to take it easy. He looks up and calls her name, Mao, asking why she is in his classroom since they are not from the same class. Suzuki Mao, his childhood friend from preschool, stands before him. She tells him that her class is going to Spokja after school and invites him along. He demands to know her reasoning. She answers that they should have fun like they used to, reminding him that making friends is as important as studying. She adds that she cannot help him academically, but she can help him with friendship. Mao is lively, social, and at the center of her class, already a gyaru before he even notices the change. Haruno insists that he already has friends. He then asks her if her outfit and hair violate school rules. She dismisses the concern, claiming his comment as sexual harassment. His mood drops instantly, and he apologizes. After a pause, she offers to tell the teacher something so that he can skip the supplementary class. He declines. She argues that he is a smart student and skipping one class would not affect him, but he denies being that smart. After school, Haruno and Mao sit together in supplementary class. He asks if she is not going to Spokja, but she explains that everyone suddenly made other plans, so it was cancelled. He asks about her club activities, and she says that the club is off today and she is free, so she thought she could have him teach her. He responds that he is not in the mood for teaching. She reminds him that they have always stuck together. He replies that it is because they are neighbors. She mentions that her mother still invites him for dinner sometimes. Suddenly, she brings up that she heard he has a mobile phone, and she demands that they exchange contact information. He agrees. She asks if he uses Instagram, but he denies it. She asks about Snapchat, and he doesn't even know about it. At that moment, Kuromiya opens the classroom door and stares at them in confusion. She sits in front of them and declares that they will study Japanese history today. She begins with a quiz. Without thinking, Haruno starts naming the ages of dinosaurs. Kuromiya tells him that she means humans, not dinosaurs. He then lists the Renaissance, Baroque, and Rococo periods, which she also rejects as incorrect. Mao silently observes, trying to grasp the atmosphere. She wonders why the genius idol is present and what connection she has with Haruno. Haruno introduces Mao to Kuromiya. Mao whispers to him, asking what is happening, and he whispers back that he will explain later. With a faint smile, he adds that Kuromiya is helping him study. A few days earlier, during one of their study sessions, Haruno and Kuromiya discussed what they would do if people saw them together. Kuromiya proposed that in such a situation, they would reverse their roles. He agreed but admitted he had no acting experience. She smirked and told him that he only needed to mimic her. Now, following that plan, Kuromiya asks him questions, and he plays the student by deliberately giving wrong answers. He wonders if he is performing the role correctly. Suddenly, his mobile vibrates with a message from Kuromiya, asking if he truly thinks she is that stupid. His face changes and sweat appears on his forehead. Mao immediately notices and confronts them. She explains that Haruno's right hand trembles oddly whenever he feels guilty, and reminds them that he is not actually that dumb. She insists that they admit they are acting and demands an explanation for what they are hiding. Suzuki waits for an answer, but both Haruno and Kuromaya remain confused. Haruno believes that if Kuromaya's secret is exposed, all of her hard work will be wasted. To protect her, he pretends to be poor at studies. Suzuki mutters in a low tone that she dislikes this side of him because he judges himself unfairly. He quietly apologizes. Suzuki then turns to Kuromiya and apologizes as well, saying that seeing Haruno act like this makes her upset, while gently poking his cheek. She adds that she knows he never means to cause trouble or deceive anyone, then adds that she prefers not to have her matters pried into. After a brief silence, Kuromiya confesses that she is the one receiving help from Haruno in studies. She admits that she struggles academically and that Haruno has been helping her improve. The room falls silent. Suzuki's eyes widen as she stares at Kuromiya. She blurts out that Kuromiya is the genius idol seen on television. She calmly admits that it is false, and that her supposed intelligence is just an image built for the public. Suzuki finds this difficult to believe and turns to Haruno for confirmation. He nods silently. The atmosphere softens after a moment of stillness. Suzuki smiles again and says she will also help Kuromiya study. She promises to join their supplementary classes whenever she is free. Kuromiya politely refuses, saying that it is her own problem and she must handle it herself. Haruno supports Suzuki's offer, assuring Kuromiya that Suzuki is an honest person and can be trusted with secrets. Kuromiya hesitates for a second, then nods and agrees to accept Suzuki's help. Suzuki leans closer to Haruno and whispers softly that Kuromiya is very cute. He replies in a casual tone that they are fine without Suzuki's help. She smiles with relief, feeling that he has finally understood what he truly wants to do. She then grabs Kuromiya's hand and tells her they should hang out together sometime. Kuromiya agrees without hesitation. Haruno, however, reminds them that midterm exams are less than a month away. Suzuki pauses, then tilts her head and asks how far they have gotten in their preparation, noting that they seem to be reviewing for the second time. Haruno explains that it is because Kuromiya even studies during her work breaks. Kuromiya lightly mentions a quote from Nobunaga, that their energy lies in the Hanoji temple. Suzuki glances at Haruno with curiosity, wondering if this reflects Kuromiya's actual level of knowledge. Haruno suddenly becomes emotional and says that she has improved so much. He remembers how difficult it used to be for her to memorize even the simplest subjects. Now seeing her progress, he considers it a huge achievement. He turns to Suzuki and tells her that she should learn from Kuromiya's determination. Kuromiya looks at them, frozen in disbelief at their exaggerated reactions. Suzuki responds cheerfully that she is more of a last-minute studying type. Haruno agrees and says that she has an excellent memory. Suzuki laughs, saying that she began studying only a month before the entrance exams and still managed to pass. She continues talking to Haruno about it. In the middle of their conversation, Haruno suddenly realizes that they have been leaving Kuromiya out. He immediately apologizes to her. Kuromiya shakes her head and says she does not mind, since Suzuki and Haruno are good friends. A moment later, Suzuki suddenly gasps and exclaims that she forgot something important. Without waiting for their response, she rushes out of the room like a storm, calling out that she will head back first. The room becomes quiet again. Kuromiya turns to Haruno and calmly asks how long he has known Suzuki. He replies that she feels like family to him, so he tends to speak more freely around her. Kuromiya looks down for a moment, then softly says that he can also talk to her like that. Haruno freezes, saying that it is impossible because she is too amazing. Kuromiya smiles and suggests that they drop the formal tone between them. Haruno nervously insists that they should focus on studying first. Kuromiya refuses until he changes the way he talks to her. He pleads for leniency and says that she should wait at least 5 more years. Kuromiya laughs and says that 5 years is too long. Outside, Suzuki stands quietly near the window on the first floor, watching them from below. A gentle breeze moves her hair as she stands alone, wondering why she acted that way. The scene shifts to 2 weeks before the midterm exams, and Haruno muses that they are also at the end of their preparations. Kuromiya is tapping on her phone without looking up. Seeing this, he asks what she is doing. She shows him her screen, revealing an app that Suzuki Mao gave her for memorization practice. He gasps quietly, surprised that a study method like this exists. Kuromiya explains that Mao also taught her the correct way to input the words. Haruno falls silent, feeling that his role as her tutor may no longer be needed. After a moment, Kuromiya says that she doesn't understand a certain part. Hearing this, Haruno's expression brightens instantly, and he asks what the problem is. She shows him the question and explains that she cannot grasp the logic behind it. He looks at the question and freezes. Sweat runs down his face as he pretends that he is not in the mood to study Japanese today. He quickly suggests that they review the range once again. Kuromiya agrees but asks if he understands the question himself. He hesitates before finally admitting that he doesn't understand it either. Kuromiya remains calm but demands an explanation for why he lied to her. Haruno answers that he feels unworthy if he can't understand something. He adds that he has always relied on memorizing formulas and has never thought deeply about the logic behind them. Feeling anxious, he says he'll go ask Sensei for help, who should be in the laboratory today. Kuromiya takes his hand and says that she will go with him. She continues holding his hand and tells him it's wrong to think he is unworthy. He looks at their joined hands, and she quickly realizes, apologizing in embarrassment. She then reminds him that they decided to solve problems together. They leave the room side by side. As they walk through the corridor, several students greet Kuromiya. Haruno walks a few steps behind her, lost in thought. He wonders if there's any way of studying other than memorization that would allow him to teach her again. He silently curses himself for feeling useless, despite Mao's words telling him to stop hating himself. Still, he can't help but think that standing next to someone as remarkable as Kuromiya makes it impossible not to feel inferior. Kuromiya turns to ask where the laboratory is. When they arrive, the sensei greets them and begins by asking about earthquakes. They answer that it's the phenomenon where the ground shakes. Sensei explains that it's not only the ground that shakes, but that earthquakes spread in a three-dimensional radial pattern. He continues, saying the depth of the hypocenter can be calculated using the Pythagorean theorem. Kuromiya listens attentively, focusing on every word. Haruno watches Sensei with admiration. He realizes that Sensei doesn't just provide answers but also guides students in how to think. Haruno reflects that this is what real teaching should be and begins to think that his own guidance might be getting in Kuromiya's way. Sensei smiles and says that this is the first time a student has ever asked that question. Haruno asks if the question was too basic, but Sensei shakes his head and replies that such a question only comes from those who study hard. Sensei then asks for their names. Kuromiya gives hers simply, while Haruno nervously adds his student number as well. Sensei laughs lightly and comments that both of them are studying hard. Hearing this, Haruno feels relieved, realizing that he is not a burden to her. Kuromiya, however, tells Sensei that it is all because of Haruno, whom she calls the world's best teacher for her. He blushes deeply, unable to respond properly, and only manages to say that he is grateful. From Haruno's perspective, he cannot fully understand her. She struggles in academics, yet possesses an endless kindness and strength that he can't describe. Sensei smiles at both of them and says that they will surely pass if they continue to give their best effort. Days pass, and the midterms draw near. These exams will determine whether Kuromiya can continue her idol career or not. For Haruno, his own standing is also at risk, as the end of the after-school supplementary classes approaches. The tension builds quietly between them. After the session, Kuromiya gathers her things and leaves the school, telling him that she has lessons to attend. Haruno watches her leave, feeling the pressure of the upcoming exams. The day of the exams arrives. Haruno, Kuromiya, and Suzuki are seated in the examination hall. The ticking clock echoes through the silent room as tension fills the air. Pages turn, pens move, and the sound of scratching fills the hall. Time passes more quickly than expected, and soon the invigilator announces that the exam is over. After the test, Suzuki, Haruno, and Kuromiya gather outside to discuss the paper. Suzuki quickly interrupts their analysis, saying they should leave self-reflection for later and focus on studying for the next subject. Haruno glances at Kuromiya, silently wishing for her success, but reminds himself that he must concentrate on his own performance first. The next exam begins. As the minutes slip away, the teacher signals them to stop writing. Kuromiya grips her pen tightly, her focus scattered. Her body feels hot, and tension spreads through her hands and feet. Anxiety surges through her as she thinks this is far more difficult than performing live on stage. She recalls her idol instructor's advice about imagining the audience as kind-hearted potatoes, but when she tries to apply it, she quickly realizes it doesn't fit the situation. This isn't a performance, this is an exam. Outside the examination room, Kuromiya's thoughts spiral. She questions whether she read the sixth question correctly, whether she should have studied more, and what will happen if her results are poor. Her hands tremble as fear takes hold. The pressure to pass, or risk losing her opportunity, weighs heavily on her. Suzuki watches her, sensing her unease. She wonders if Kuromiya is all right, then glances at Haruno, knowing he's the one who can support her during times like this. But when she looks at him, she sees that he is just as tense, nervously mumbling over his notes as he revises. Suzuki knows she's not the best at handling moments like these, but she still wants to help. An idea strikes her, and she tells Kuromiya to look at Haruno. Kuromiya turns and softly asks if he's okay. Haruno mutters, "God does not play dice." Suzuki explains that this is his usual state before a test. She adds that it's oddly calming to see someone more nervous than yourself. Kuromiya looks at her, nods, and lets out a small laugh. A thought crosses her mind. Tests and live performances aren't so different. Both demand focus, confidence, and the will to do her best. Haruno keeps muttering under his breath, still overwhelmed by nerves. Suzuki shakes her head and comments that his habit of worrying about unnecessary things hasn't changed. Kuromiya asks if she means worrying about things that don't need to be worried about. Suzuki agrees with a faint smile. She thinks to herself that Haruno always worries too much and sometimes acts foolishly, yet there's something admirable about how his concern always includes others. Still visibly anxious, Haruno offers both girls packets of glucose, saying that sugar intake is important before tests. Suzuki and Kuromiya accept them, smiling at his gesture. Afterward, the three return to their seats for the next exam. Kuromiya sits down, her mind drifting toward negative thoughts again, but she takes a deep breath and forces herself to focus. She glances at Haruno, thinking that if she could stay calm like this, she would have looked at his face from the beginning to steady herself. Meanwhile, Haruno sits at his desk, still muttering and nervously flipping through his notes, until the teacher announces that it's time to put materials away. Startled, Haruno tries to gather his books quickly, but they slip from his hands and fall to the floor. He apologizes at once and bends down to pick them up. As he does, he notices a small piece of paper near his desk. Written on it are the words, "Thanks for the energy booster." He pauses, glancing toward Kuromiya's direction, but before he can think further, the teacher announces the start of the test. The room falls silent once more as the sound of pens fills the air again. Kuromiya is doing warm-up exercises with her group. One of them asks about her studies since the tests are approaching. Kuromiya replies that she wants to gain her mother's approval, so she is doing her best. The girl smiles and offers to help her with her studies. A few moments later, Kuromiya notices her friend Sora grinning at her, so she asks why. Sora teases her, asking how things are going with that guy. The other girl looks surprised and asks what she means. Sora explains that a boy has been tutoring Kuromiya lately. Kuromiya admits that she feels a little guilty because she is always receiving help. She adds that another friend of hers has also been tutoring her. The girl remarks that Kuromiya has found a good friend, so she should give him something in return. Kuromiya says that Haruno doesn't want anything. In her thoughts, she considers that if she were a boy, just being close to a girl would make her happy, but reality reminds her that she is not. The other girl suggests that Kuromiya could sing for him, but Kuromiya admits she's not good at such things. Then she reveals that she has already done that once. Her friends stare at her in shock and insist that she should do something else, something that comes naturally to her. At school, the teacher asks everyone to take their seats. He announces that the upcoming tests will directly affect university admissions and play a major role in determining which faculty they can enter. He warns that without proper preparation, they may lose the opportunity to study what they desire. The room becomes tense, and anxious murmurs spread among the students. Haruno looks toward Kuromiya. She appears calm and confident despite the heavy atmosphere, yet her eyes lack their usual shine. The teacher begins returning the test papers. Haruno feels a rush of uncertainty. He wants to attend university, but still doesn't know what he truly wishes to study. This month has been filled with effort and exhaustion. He has always studied diligently since middle school, but this is the first time he's worked hard alongside someone else and supported them. The weight of that responsibility feels heavier than he expected. When Kuromiya's name is called, she walks to the front and receives her paper. Shortly after, Haruno is called. He takes his sheet and sees his score, 96 marks. He turns to look at Kuromiya. She tilts her paper toward him with a proud smile and flashes a small victory sign. Her score is 66. In that moment, he realizes what true joy looks like, the joy of being rewarded after genuine effort. After school, they gather in the classroom. Suzuki bursts in, congratulating both of them for passing. She carries a box filled with food, declaring that they will have a small celebration. Kuromiya takes only a tiny piece of sweet, mindful that her live performance is near. They all smile, relieved that their scores are above the cutoff in every subject. Kuromiya bows slightly before them, thanking both Haruno and Suzuki for helping her succeed. Suzuki tells her that now she can continue her idol activities without worry. Kuromiya nods with a light expression, saying her mother will surely approve of these results, as every subject is above 60 marks. She adds that she must maintain this level from now on. Haruno, on the other hand, is quietly thinking about something else. The supplementary lessons will soon come to an end since they have both passed. Kuromiya turns to him and asks what he hopes his mother will say about his results. His scores are above 90 in all subjects. He answers that he thinks he'll avoid being scolded this time, but the rest depends on his sister. Kuromiya asks if his sister attends the same school. Before he can reply, Suzuki chimes in, saying that his sister Akari is a natural-born genius and that comparing them is unfair. She adds that Akari always looks radiant, scoring close to perfect marks every time. She laughs lightly, mentioning that teaching others can deepen one's understanding, which might be the secret to his success. Suzuki grabs Kuromiya's hand and cheerfully declares that the three of them will study together from now on. Haruno quietly agrees in his mind. He knows that without the supplementary lessons, his reason to spend time with Kuromiya will disappear. He wonders if he'll be able to talk to her as casually as before. The thought leaves him uneasy. He imagines small scenes in his head, like starting a conversation by saying that today's lecture was difficult, but quickly dismisses them, thinking it's impossible. Kuromiya approaches him slowly. She looks at both Suzuki and Haruno and says that she wants to show her gratitude to them. She takes out an envelope and hands it to him. Inside is a premium ticket for her upcoming live performance. She tells him to come and watch her perform.
Here I am, know it's been a while.